So today I'll be talking about Shun'ei, KOF15. Overall, I think his strengths are his mobility. He has pretty good mid-range control, and he has pretty good pressure. So yeah, let's just get into his moves. So first up, let's just talk about his form normals. His far A is a standard, far A. It's an anti-hop. It whiffs on crouchers, as you can see, as a poke, but it'll combo on crouchers if they're in hit stun. And it's cancelable in this patch. They made it cancelable in this patch, which is really nice because it means you can hit confirm a little bit longer strings. But yeah, it's overall not super interesting. Next up is his far B. His far B is actually a really good poke. You can see it reaches really far. You can also use it sort of as a hop check. It's not quite as good as far A as a hop check. You can max cancel it because it's a really good, but you can't cancel it into specials or anything like that, which is a little unfortunate. But if you land it as a whiff punish, you can max cancel it, which is kind of nice. Let's see. His far C. It's honestly, I don't think it's very good. It's a weird poke. It's cancelable, which is kind of nice. It's frame 9, but it really doesn't have a lot of range. But yeah, another interesting thing though is that if you tap the button again, you get like a target combo into essentially another far C, as you can see, and you can do it even on whiff, like that. And you can do it at different speeds, like if I mash it, you can see that's really fast, or you can like delay it a little bit. You don't have super. You can't do it that much slower or that much faster, but you can do it a little bit. I guess if you're at mid-range, it does allow you to hit confirm into things like that. But they also made it command normal cancelable, so you can command normal cancel it, which is kind of nice. His far D, I actually find myself using it a fair amount because it's a really good anti-air. Unfortunately, as you can see from far away, it whiffs on crouchers. It'll hit crouchers from like that distance, but it's generally just very good at stunting approaches because they can't really jump at you when you have this active, and they can't walk at you because then they'll be standing with this, right? So yeah, it's kind of decent. The one thing to be a little wary of though is it's not special cancelable, and it's -9 on hit. So you can technically, if your opponent's really on point, they can technically raw punish you even on hit with like really fast supers. Think like Iori's EX super. But I don't think they generally will, so take that into consideration. And if they jump, this is just a really good answer. So next, close normals. Close A is a standard close A normal. Nothing special. Frame 4, which is nice. It's +4, again pretty standard, which is nice. But it's not really all that special. It's just a standard close A. His close B, it's frame 5, and honestly, I don't think there's really much of a reason to use it. Well, you get one more frame advantage from it, but you can see it has too much pushback to link into like close C. So yeah. His close C is actually pretty good. It's frame 5, which is like a frame slower than Kyo's, but at frame 5, it's still pretty fast, allowing you to use it as an OS throw, like most KOF characters. And it combos into both of his command normals and combos into specials. It combos into pretty much whatever you want. That's his main combo. It's his main combo tool, or main combo starter. And it's really good for that. It's only -1 on block too, which is really nice. His close D is kind of weird. It's frame 6, which is okay. It's 2 hits, and it does a little more damage than his close C, but honestly I just stick with his close C because it's faster startup. But you could use his or close D if you wanted to. If you wanted to, but I personally wouldn't recommend it unless, again, you're OSing for back throw, in which case it's okay. Next up is his crouching attacks. So his crouch A is interesting. His crouch A is frame 5, which is a little bit, it's not super slow, but at frame 5 it's slower than a lot of other light normals, like his close A is frame 4, for example. But it's good. It allows him to combo into certain things like that. Unfortunately, it's only 25 damage, which is kind of low, all things considered. But, again, because of this patch... Or, yeah, never mind. Yeah, I mean... It's command normal cancelable too. You can cancel it into command normals, which I'll get into a little bit later. His crouch B is actually ridiculous. It's actually ridiculous. So his crouch A is frame 5, but obviously it doesn't hit low. His crouch B is frame 4. It's a frame faster, and it hits low. I guess another thing I should mention about crouch A is that it's +2 on block, so you can use it for pressure. While crouch B is -1 on block, which is a little unfortunate, but it's a low that's frame 4, which is kind of absurd. Unfortunately, it's not cancelable into specials, so you have to like do some sort of A, either crouch A or far A after it to combo, but that's not that big of a deal, and the fact that it's a frame 4 low is just really nice. Crouch C is okay. It's an okay-ish anti-air, but honestly, it's not really that great of an anti-air. But it is an anti-air at its frame 7. Honestly, don't do it that much, except for maybe anti-airs, but even then I wouldn't. His sweep is actually really good though. It's frame 9, and it's actually 100% safe on block, if I recall. Well, let's see. Yeah, it's literally 0 on block, so they which is kind of obscene. It is cancelable into specials too, which is kind of nice, or command normals. So yeah, overall his sweep is actually really nice. Yeah. So next, I guess I'll talk a little bit about his command normals. So he's got 2 command normals. One is a command overhead, forward A. It's a little bit slow, as you can see, so it's reactable, but it's still a decent, mix-up tool. It's frame 25, which is actually like really slow, but it does give him a mix-up, which I guess is kind of nice. You can obviously use it from it doesn't combo from lights if canceled into, and it loses its overhead property like normal, but it does give you like a little nice frame trap there, I guess, and you can cancel it into things if you canceled into it. Also, raw, you can cancel it into supers if you want. So if you just raw commit, you can cancel into supers, or again, max mode cancel it. So standard stuff. It's a decent mix-up tool, but it's honestly, at least I should say it's a decent mix-up tool considering his kit. But it's actually one of the worst overheads in the game, to be completely honest. So yeah, his next command normal though, this is the one that I think is absurd. This is what really makes him unique and sort of special. First of all, to be clear, it's not an overhead. You see it right there. I'm not canceling it, and it's not an overhead. You see, they can block it low. Which sounds a little weird because it looks like an overhead kind of. And it's also super minus, as you can see. But that's not the point. The craziest thing about this is it's special cancelable, and he's got some really good air specials, which I'll get into a bit later. But it puts him in the air, which is just really good. Just note that for later. It combos from his heavy attacks too, which is really nice. And again, just like the forward A, the forward B also you can use as frame traps from his light attacks, like that. I'll get more into why this is really good later when I talk about his air normals, but just know that it puts him in the air, which is really nice. Next is jump attacks. His jump A is an air-to-air, but honestly, I don't... It's a good air-to-air, actually, but I don't think it's amazing. I don't find myself using it a ton, because you can use his like jump C for more damage as an air-to-air. And his jump C is only 1 frame slower, I believe. But it does have more range, so I guess if you're doing certain air-to-airs, it's okay. His jump B is a decent jump in. As you can see, it's a pretty steep angled hitbox. Unfortunately, it doesn't give you all that much frame advantage on like a standing opponent. Like, well, it does if you hit it deep, but it's a little hard to, or like to take advantage of its sort of long hitbox. It's not going to be hitting super deep, but it is a good overall though. It is a good jump in normal. Use it as a jump in normal. It is, but here's his jump D, and I think his jump D is for the most part better than his jump B. They have pretty similar hitboxes overall, but his jump D obviously just does more damage. His jump D is 2 frames slower at frame 9 as opposed to frame 7. Or actually, it's 3 frames slower, my bad. But I think the higher damage here is warranted as a jump normal. Yeah. Both of them, surprisingly, neither of them are amazing cross-ups. His jump D is kind of an okay cross-up, but even then it's kind of hard to land as a cross-up. But, yeah. You could use it as a very limited cross-up, but it's a little bit tricky. His jump B doesn't have a really cross-up box at all, but his jump D has a cross-up box, but it's very... You can see there I'm hitting it, but it's honestly very hard to hit, and I wouldn't recommend going for it very much. Oh, that's right, there's one more ground normal I forgot to talk about it, which is actually a really good ground normal, is his stand CD. As you can see, it has a lot of range, because not only does he move forward, he extends his leg like super far. Like it lands from like over here, which is really, really good. And on top of this, you can see how he kind of hops. It goes over lows, which is really nice. One slightly unfortunate thing is it can't be whiff cancelled, but overall, this is a really nice CD. And by proxy, his Shadow Strike is similarly pretty good because it has the same animation and range as his stand CD. But where it gets absurd is his air CD. His air CD is really good. One little thing I should note: both his jump C and his jump CD are special cancelable, which makes them pretty good. But jump C, as you can see, it doesn't have a very downward angled hitbox, so it's a lot harder to use for things like that. His jump CD though, it has a really absurd hitbox. But fun fact, like it kind of looks funny because he extends his leg. You can see kind of the animation of the kick where he extends his leg. The hitbox actually doesn't come out until his leg is in this back position here, but the hitbox is like still in front of him where his leg like used to be. I know that sounds weird, but see right there. The hitbox is active right here, which is a little strange. But in any case, the hitbox is actually really pretty generous, and you can do it, and it'll hit crouchers pretty consistently too, if you do it at a certain time, at just like a pretty early timing from your hop. It's overall really nice, and when I talk about his air specials, I'll talk a little bit more about why this is really good. It can technically cross up too, but it's very tricky and unreliable too. But I have seen it cross up. Let's see. Yeah, I can't really get it intentionally, but I have seen it cross up, trust me. But don't go for the cross up, obviously. Anyway, let's move on to his specials. So his first special is this sort of, it's like a fireball. And I guess it is a fireball to a degree, and it nullifies other fireballs, but it's kind of not great. It looks like a fireball, and you want to kind of use it like a fireball, but it's like a bad fireball, because honestly it's not very good. It has a decent hitbox, as you can see, but unfortunately it extends his hurt box a lot, so you can't really use it, like, you can't use it in the way that you can use a lot of other projectiles as sort of a disjoint, which kind of sucks. But it does knock down, which is, I guess, kind of nice. Honestly, I wouldn't use this move a whole lot, except for the EX version. The EX version crumples, which is actually really good. As you can see here, the EX version crumples, which is really integral to his combo game. And his EX version is really good. But both the A and C versions are not very good, to be honest. And neither of them really combo from lights either, so yeah, it kind of sucks. The normal version. But the EX version combos from, it's super fast and combos from lights, as you can see, and it causes crumple, which is very, very good. His other special, or his another special is the DP, and in this patch they finally made it an anti-air. The light version is a true anti-air. It has full upper body, or sorry, full anti-air, full invincibility to anti-air attacks. Which is really nice. This is what you should use as an anti-air if you can. Yeah, it took them this long to make it a true anti-air, if you can believe that. From all the way back in 14, it wasn't a true anti-air. You can technically use it in some combos, but just don't. You have better options. His DPC is really weird. Technically, it has upper body invincibility and full invincibility to air attacks, but it has 18 frame startup, and as such, yeah, you're not going to be using it as an anti-air, like, ever. But it is a pretty decent combo tool because it puts them in a juggle where you can follow up with other things, as you saw there. You can see you can do stuff like that, which is kind of cool. Now the DP, or the EX DP is also really good, like his EX Fireball. It's a really great juggle tool. As you can see there, it puts your opponent so high up, you can juggle a heavy DP, and then from there you can go into a lot of other options, which I'll get into in a little bit. His last grounded special is Quarter Circle Back Punch. And this move's interesting, and it's actually really good, but it has a couple of minor quirks. First of all, visually, if you watch here, it kind of reminds me of like Terry's Burn Knuckle in a lot of ways, and it seems like it's like Terry's Burn Knuckle / any other rush move, but it actually has one very distinct, different property about it. It has a proximity box. That is to say, it won't actually activate. You can see the hitbox is not active until he gets close, and so you could just whiff it, and like it never even comes out. But if you're close enough, it'll come out. And it'll only come out once you're close enough. You can see here, it comes out when I'm close enough, but and if I'm super close, it'll come out faster, right? So unfortunately, due to that, unlike Terry's Burn Knuckle, for example, it's not as good as like anti-airing or anti-hopping. That being said, because it has this proximity box, it has, unlike Terry's Burn Knuckle, the frame disadvantage doesn't vary. It's always going to give you the same frame advantage, pretty much. Which is actually really good. Why? Because the light version, the heavy version, side note, the heavy version is significantly unsafe, because you can see there it's like -6 or something, and it pushes you basically into your opponent's face, so you're just going to eat a punish. But the light version, it's only -5, and it leaves you this far away. You'd be very hard-pressed to find anything that punishes it in the first place, or, and you'll be especially hard-pressed to find any player that will actually punish you for it. What this means is that in any sort of block string you're doing, if they're just blocking, you can end in this, and you get free chip and like while obviously you end your turn, you basically get back to neutral, which is really kind of abusable. And this is more abusable when combined with his great stand CD. You can stand CD and then immediately go into the light rush, and it's completely safe, pretty much, as you can see there. But what's even more crazy about this sequence is that if you do it and it hits, you can do another quarter circle forward A, or sorry, quarter circle back A, and it'll hit, and you'll get extra damage off of your stand CD conversion, which is really, really good. Or even you can even get like stuff like super, which is, you know, again, really nice. Overall, if you get your opponent blocking and you can just abuse this, like, absurdly. There are some other options that you can do later, which I'll talk about in a little bit. The EX version is okay. It's fast. Oh, I guess the other thing is the light version combos from lights, and the heavy version combos from heavies. You can see the heavy version doesn't combo there, but it'll combo from here. The EX version has the same, actually is faster than the light version and causes hard knockdown, where the light version doesn't. See, you can see the light version only does soft knockdown, while the hard version does heavy knockdown, as you can see. The EX version is therefore a kind of decent combo ender, but I generally would advise against it because he's got better ways to spend EX bar even off of lights, because he can combo lights into his EX fireball, which crumples, or even EX DP to get a ton of damage. So overall, I wouldn't recommend his EX rush, but his A rush is very, very abusable. So next, the reason why you're probably interested in this character are his air specials. So the first is quarter circle forward and punch, and it creates this sort of hands thing, as you can see, which is interesting, right? This has a really big hitbox. Sometimes not as big as you would think by the animation. Sometimes it looks like the hand should hit, like here, but it just doesn't. Like, that being said, despite it being visually not like as big as you might think, it is still a pretty big hitbox. The A version does not change your air momentum at all, so it doesn't give you any sort of mix-up, but it's a very active jump in, and on block it's usually pretty plus if you do it lower, like that. It can be plus. Well, I shouldn't say it's super plus, but it's generally pretty safe. The C version, though, it always gives you backwards momentum no matter where you are. It gives you the same backwards momentum no matter what jump arc you do, which is actually quite nice because you can use it to like bait anti-airs while throwing out a hitbox. And as a matter of fact, I can tell you from experience, if you do it just right, you can actually beat certain anti-air DPs with it, because they basically like fly up in the air expecting you to get hit, but if you throw this out, you can basically shift your hurt box backwards, and since there's sort of this delay, right, he shifts his hurt box backwards, and the hitbox comes out and hits the opponent after their anti-air invincibility from their DP actually wears off and they're in the air. So it's actually really useful as an anti-air in a lot of ways. So yeah, definitely abuse this if you play this character. But what's more so is you can cancel it from your command normal that puts you in the air like that, and you can see mid-screen the A version is technically minus, but it leaves you really far, so so you can't get punished for it. And it's not super minus, so you literally can't punish this unless you know they guard cancel roll. But on hit, it's really nice because it causes hard knockdown, as you can see there. The C version, it's a little more finicky because since he goes backwards, if you don't get a super close C in mid screen, sometimes it won't connect, or if you get like a far connect, it can be a little finicky. But on block, you can use it if you just want to kind of create space and you want to go back to like mid range as opposed to being close. If you want to go back to mid range, you can see it kind of gets you really far away from your opponent on block. Versus this A version, if you want to stay close and pressure your opponent at close, that's what you use the A version for. But if you want to stay away, use the C version, right? But what's even crazier is what happens in the corner. Once he gets you in the corner, the A version doesn't do anything really. It just gives you hard knockdown, which is nice. But the C version is really obscene because it puts your opponent in a juggle state. And you can get really good damage off of it, as you can see. When combined with his other special moves, you can get really good damage that has a lot of meter build back too, because you basically got to juggle into an EX, into a normal special, into a normal special. It's just really good in that context. And on block in the corner, it's also good because you go back to this sort of spacing where you can pressure your opponent again. Unfortunately, the A version loses a lot of utility in the corner because it leaves you way too close because it doesn't have the opponent pushback. And so they can like throw you, for example. So don't use the A version in the corner, use the C version. And if the C version lands in the corner, you go and you should get a ton of damage. And again, this is why one of my favorite block strings, if I have my opponent in the corner and they're blocking, is I do lights, and then I frame trap into the forward B, and then I do the C hands, because the C hands on hit will give me a ton of reward, and on block, it's perfectly safe, and I'm barely minus, and I can kind of continue my pressure, even if they're technically plus. So next up are obviously what everyone kind of knows this character for, or maybe what you've heard about this character is his air dashes. Quarter circle forward and kick gives him air dash. And he's got 4 different air dashes. Well, I should say quarter circle back or quarter circle forward, depending on what air dash you want. So if you press the heavy kick, you press D, you get sort of the horizontal air dashes, right? And the horizontal air dashes are obviously good for approaching or escaping. There's not much to be said here. If you know how air dashes work, these are your standard fare air dashes. Oh, one thing I forgot to mention with the hand is you can cancel it from air CD like that, and it's really good. But what you can do with the air dashes as well is cancel them from the air CD. So you can do some really disgusting pressure with air CD. The unfortunate thing is the air dash has a height restriction, or rather a height minimum. You can see if I try to do it too low to the ground, it just won't come out. So unfortunately, that means you can't tiger knee into it, and you can't do it from a super low CD connect like that. See, I'm trying to cancel it, but I can't. But you can get it from a higher CD connect like that. And this allows you to continue your pressure like that, which is really nice. But he's got 2 other air dashes. He's got, with the light, with B, you've got this diagonal air dash, which is the quarter circle forward B. And he's got a downward air dash with quarter circle back B. Now, to be honest, these are a lot worse air dash than the D air dashes, because unlike the D air dashes, where the D air dashes just push you in the air and you can do anything after they're done. By the way, you can't interrupt you can't do anything during the air dash. You can only do it after the air dash recovers. As you can see, I'm like mashing, and it only comes out after like the flame effect is done. But the B air dashes, unfortunately, you can't press anything on the way down, except for one little thing, which is you can cancel them into the hands. Unfortunately, as you can see there, this cancel into the light hands is always super minus. No matter how low you do the light hands, it gives you extra. It basically gives you like extra landing lag, which kind of sucks. Again, you can kind of do the same thing with this one, but again, same result, right? But as you can see there, the diagonal one can sometimes phase you through the opponent, but sometimes it won't. Let's see. See, there, but sometimes it will, which is kind of a good gimmick, I guess. And I did decrease the landing lag in this patch, so you're able to press buttons a little bit faster from it, but a smart opponent will just be able to hit you out of it. But yeah, next, one thing I want to mention though is that, you know how I said you can't Tiger Knee his air dash? And you can't do it like super low? I wasn't lying when I said you couldn't Tiger Knee the air dash, or you can Tiger Knee it, but you just have to delay it, and sometimes you won't get it, which is awkward, so you just do like jump and then do the air dash as soon as possible, and you'll get the minimum height air dash. But his EX air dash has no height restriction, so you can do it whenever. And his EX air dash you can Tiger Knee if you want a super low air dash, and you want like super fast overhead pressure, or even just super fast into low, you can do that. But in this patch, they changed something very major that allows him to do super low air dashes without having to spend meter, which is they made his forward B cancelable before the hitbox comes out, even on whiff. What do I mean by that is, look, you can basically put him in the air and then immediately air dash. And you can see there, it's actually lower than the... if I try to air dash at that height, you can't normally do it, but you might just be barely able to do it, but you can do super low air dashes with canceling the forward B, which is really nice. And you can cancel it into the diagonal one, which that's not very useful, to be completely honest, because it doesn't phase you. It doesn't allow you to cross up the opponent, and it puts you super minus. So I wouldn't do that, but you could use the heavy air dash to get more hot pressure. And the problem is, though, you can't really get a... You want to just do jump C after, because it's fast enough. Or you can do... you definitely don't have enough time to get a blowback out, a CD. And you generally don't have enough time to get even a jump D. But you can get a jump B, for example, off of it, typically, which is kind of nice. Point is, this is a really nice tool. And on top of that, you can do stuff like that, which is, you can see how that's plus, which is really nice. Or you can do like the back version, which again, on hit in the corner, gets you quite a bit of damage. So yeah, point is, this new change is really good. Use his whiff cancel forward B to do all sorts of crazy shenanigans. You can even whiff cancel it into the hands. You can do all sorts of crazy stuff with it, or air dash. It's just nuts, honestly. And again, on block with the forward B, you can do stuff like that, or you can do stuff like that. You just have a lot of options into his air specials from forward B. Experiment with them and try to utilize them. Unfortunately, again, one thing that kind of sucks about his air dashes, or not necessarily his air dashes, but him as a character, is despite him having all these air mobility options, he doesn't have a good cross-up, which really, honestly, kind of sucks. Because you would expect an air dash character to be able to air dash and then cross up, but he technically can if you're really precise, but it's actually really hard to do. which is unfortunate. It's very unfortunate, honestly. But you can cross up with like that. I just did a cross up. But yeah. Overall, though, his pressure is extremely, extremely good with a combination of the air dash and the hands and all the forward B cancels and his jump CD. Uses jump CD. If you jump with him and you don't know what air normal to do, just do his jump CD. It's almost never a bad option. It's cancelable into whatever. You can do some really screwed up shenanigans with it, with its cancels. Like that, or like that, or like whatever you want, really. And even if you don't cancel it, it's a really good jump CD because, yeah, and the stand CD is really good. Point is, press CD a lot, ground or air. It's very good. I guess I should talk about his supers a little bit. To be honest, his double quarter circle forward punch super is kind of bad. It's kind of bad. It's a weird delayed projectile where he does that, and it does work if you combo into it. But the problem is his other super is almost outright better in almost every way. For one thing. Yeah, just like this projectile super, I don't really know what its use is besides, you know, certain combos. And I guess one good thing about it is it doesn't switch sides. So if you want to push your opponent more into the corner. But honestly, I think his other super is better, double quarter circle forward and kick. It does more damage, and it's a super fast dash, so you can use it as to punish certain things. It's really good. And you can do, but yeah, his climax, I guess you could technically use it as an anti-air, because you can see the hitbox as he activates it. He summons the hands and they go up, and so you can use it as an anti-air, fun fact. And it is fully invincible for what it's worth. But yeah, his dash super also has some invincibility, but it's not full startup invincibility. While his fireball super technically, I guess, has full invincibility. So I guess you can use it as a reversal. But honestly, I don't think it's a great reversal because it's kind of weird to use. It's like its hitbox doesn't feel that great, but. In any case, I guess I should go over some basic combos. If you land light attacks, unfortunately you can't go into any sort of, unlike certain other characters, you don't have any command normal that combos from lights, so you have to just go directly into like specials. And meterless, your best option is quarter circle back A. But with meter, your combo options open up. You can do optimally for half a bar, you want to go for EXDP, and then do heavy DP and then heavy rush punch. With 1 bar, you could also do the fireball first, and then do the EXDP, then heavy DP, then rush punch, and that's pretty good. And again, after that rush punch, because it's a heavy version, you get hard knockdown, which is really nice. What else? Again, in the corner, the combo you want to go for is after heavy, you want to do forward B into quarter circle into his air C hand, which is quarter circle forward C, and then DP EX, heavy DP, and then heavy rush. It actually is kind of a scary amount of damage for half a bar, and he builds back like pretty much all of the bar that he wasted, so it's really scary. And again, frame trap into that by doing something like that. if your opponent is blocking like that, you can frame trap into that, and if that hits, you get the damage, so on and so forth. And any combo that ends in rush punch, you can just cancel directly into super. So, for example, you could do like, oh, I messed it up. You can do stuff like that for 1.5 bars. For 2 bars, you can do like, and both those confirms work off of lights. You can do like, stuff like that. Yeah, he just has a lot of options. To be fair, well, I shouldn't say he has a lot of combo options. Like, his combo options are very obvious, and like, he doesn't have many like crazy combo routes, I guess I should say. His combo routes are pretty stiff. He doesn't get a ton of options. But that being said, the options that he does have, he has a ton of options for pressure, and his pressure is really free form because of his air dashes and his forward B cancels and everything like that. So, I sort of explain to you the pressure routes that I kind of go for. You can experiment with your own pressure routes and figure out what works best for you. Because of his forward B into air dash cancels are making his pressure so freeform, just try to experiment with him. Yeah, that's the best advice I can give you. Play the mid-range game with his stand CD and his jump CD and his like air hands move. If you want to get in, go in and just like jump CD and abuse your opponent with jump CD, and abuse your opponent once they start blocking with forward B into either the hands move or into air dash or whatever. Just, yeah. But yeah, I guess that's about it. So, yeah. I guess one thing I should mention is his defense. His defensive game is kind of mediocre. Obviously, he doesn't have a meterless invincible reversal. His anti-airs are kind of stiff to work with because he has to do the DP. But his pressure is so strong. So, yeah. And I guess another thing is, unfortunately, his mix-ups aren't very good because, well, he has low mix-ups. His overhead mix-ups are a little bit stiff, but you could do overhead high mix-ups with the air dash, I guess, and mix up between like landing and doing that. But the timing, it's not like a true mix-up, if that makes sense. But you can fudge it. So yeah. Overall, I guess that's about it. So yeah. Thanks for watching.